What's doing, everybody? Today is Thursday, June 5th. President Donald Trump puts a travel ban on 12 countries and restricts a few others. A federal judge blocks Trump's deportation efforts to get rid of the family members of that maniac in Boulder, Colorado. And Congressman Andy Biggs joins me on the podcast. I'm Alec Lace. This is the Alec Lace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right, welcome everybody to the Alec Lace Show. I'm happy and honored as always to be here with you guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching the broadcast as it streams live on Rumble, please get down there, hit the follow button, and don't forget to share the broadcast with as many people as you can on your social networks. Let's try to get as many people into the live as possible. I can't say thank you enough for all of your support. And for those of you who saw on Tuesday, I was live from the White House. I went down there for the press briefing and finally was called on to ask a question. I've been working on that for quite a while. I think this was like the fifth press briefing that I was at, and it just comes on the heels of my daughter being at the White House for the Bring Your Sons and Daughters to Work Day, and she got to ask Caroline a question, so she kind of had that over me. She got a chance to ask a question before I did, and and it is a big deal, and I know for a lot of you guys that sent me some awesome messages from it, whether it be here on Rumble or on Twitter or wherever, thank you for your support for that. It does matter. Again, this is, I'm a lot different than everybody else that's in that room. The room is packed full of these White House correspondents. I just came from work, jumped on the train to go down there, and then when it was all done, jumped on the train to go back to work. So these are the two pictures. These images are like 7 hours apart. And what a different world it is that I'm playing in here, right? I'm in the white-collar world, in the White House with all the correspondents, getting a chance to ask questions to the White House press secretary. And then, then I'm down here in the blue-collar world on the railroad. So it's quite a, a dichotomy. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a very, very different worlds that I play in. And it's funny because, the people that I talk to at the White House are like, oh, man, you work on the railroad? I'd seen that as like it's something, odd. And at the railroad, when I tell people I'm at the White House, like, what? What are you doing at the White House? So it's like it's an interesting life, these two different worlds. But it's funny because if you look at this picture, too, when I asked the question to Caroline Levitt, you could see the one from the Fox. I freeze framed it. One of the girls in front of me is, a left-leaning correspondent, and the look on her face when I bring up the nuclear family and having a nuclear family day, she's all cringed out by it. And Caroline Levitt's response, to the clip, to the question, there was not going to be a proclamation, and then President Trump, celebrates all of his supporters, whatever she said there, like, he's a president of all people. But the big takeaway was there will not be a proclamation of Pride Month by the President of the United States. So a lot of news outlets ran with that. The Daily Beast put up an article there, and I love how they call it there. They say reporter, a MAGA reporter, right? A MAGA podcaster. But by far the best article, the Huff Post. It used to be the Huffington Post, but they got cool with the Huff Post. They put this headline: Caroline Levitt's short response to a Pride Month question is really something. The White House press secretary's response to a question about whether President Trump plans to sign a proclamation in June spoke volumes, experts say. So let's take a look at what this article says, right? This is during a press briefing on Tuesday, right-wing podcaster Alec Lace asked Levitt whether President Trump plans to issue a proclamation this month. Lace mentioned Pride Month and inquired about potential proclamations for other ideas, such as a Veterans Month or a Family Month. Now, this is the best part here. This Carrie J. Winter, a professor of American Studies at the University of Buffalo, said that the way the discussion about Pride Month at Tuesday's briefing came about was concerning itself. Winter, whose expertise includes gender, feminism, race, and class, said the exchange between Alec Lace and Caroline Levitt encapsulates the Orwellian dystopia of this American presidency. Woo! Wow. Look, $10 word after $10 word here. Look, a sycophant asks a leading question that invites the presidential spokesperson to deliver her bit of propaganda. She said before adding, this has got to be the best part, Alec Lace is not a journalist. He's a podcaster, handpicked by the Trump administration to ask disingenuous rather than tough-minded questions. So isn't that exciting to find out that I'm personally handpicked by the Trump administration to come in there and ask disingenuous questions? Imagine this. Now, what's funny is that Joe Biden actually had handpicked questions to ask. He actually had the card telling him who he could pick from. And the questions were so hard-hitting, right? This girl says, instead of tough-minded questions, the tough-minded questions to Joe Biden were, what's your favorite ice cream flavor, Joe? You know, do you know how to get back to the West Wing? Like the hard-hitting questions that were asked. Imagine still writing this after everything we know now about Joe Biden and what was going on with the media cover-up of his dementia. And so I like Alec Lace is not a journalist. He's a podcaster handpicked by the Trump administration. This reminds me of a throwback to when I was there during the last administration when Kayleigh McEnany was there, and I broke down the story when I yelled out, "You crushed that, Kayleigh," and all the articles that were written. Who's this mysterious person handpicked by Kayleigh McEnany to be in there to cheer her on? Like they had this whole conspiracy theory that was going on about who I was and what I was doing. But let's just take a look at this. I get a kick out of this. This expert. I mean, how do you get a job as an expert like this? So let's break this down. Carrie J. Winter. So we click on her profile here. I'm assuming it's a her. I don't want to screw up the pronouns. Carrie J. Winter, professor of American Studies, University of Buffalo College of Arts and Sciences. Areas of expertise: gender, feminism, race, class, slavery, politics of food, and literature. Oh, it is a girl. Here's the picture. She's a devoted eco-feminist and gardener. Isn't that interesting? She has researched and taught subjects tied to the power of storytelling, including the Revolutionary Era, African American literary history, transnational women's literature, American Indian literature, and gender studies. That's the woman that's calling me, telling me that, I'm a plant in there to ask disingenuous questions to the White House. It's funny to read this stuff, just like I said, as an outside guy, as a railroader, the podcaster on the side, and getting my chance to get down there and get a question in to the briefing. You get these hit pieces that come out. And they never asked these questions while President Joe Biden was in there. They had the HuffPost turned a blind eye to what was going on while Biden was in there, and the press were asking him literal lollipop questions. It was like, oh, no, that's hard-hitting journalism. And what's interesting, too, is, all these articles that are written about me being down there at the White House, asking Kayleigh, yeah, even when I asked Kayleigh McEnany, but even when I was asking Caroline, they never... When you have CNN like Katie Collins, or you have one of these other far left-wing journalists, right? Like they're real journalists. The media never prints it up as far left-wing activists, because these aren't journalists; they're activists. So the piece should be written like that. Caitlin Collins, far left activists, asks question. Now, what about like I said, the questions they ask Biden? Compare them to the questions they ask Trump, and see where they lie, both literally and figuratively. So they never frame it that way. It's never like, far left activist journal posing as a journalist. Ask President Biden, what's his favorite flavor of ice cream today? It's always the one way. It's right-wing podcaster, pro-Trump podcaster. So it's funny to watch it all in real time when you're a part of the fake news media. And it's a negative thing to ask for a nuclear family day. And as I've been saying on this podcast, I really do believe that for the last 4 years, the left shoved this stuff down our throat. They shoved the LGBTQ stuff down our throats. They've introduced it to all of our children, and they really ran with the ball, and it would not let up. It was a full court press to shove that whole rainbow mafia stuff down our throats. And now I think that when we have it, we should be promoting our side of it, which is the nuclear family unit, which is the traditional family. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's the only way our society moves forward. We have a birth rate problem. We got a marriage rate problem. People aren't getting married, aren't having kids. And I think it's something that we should highlight. Now, whether you want to make it a month or whatever like that, I don't know. A little bit of that is said in jest. I don't know about all these months anyway. I think they're all kind of silly when we do any of them. It's I think that's all more for promotional stuff and everything else. But I do think we need to highlight more of the nuclear family unit. I think we need to highlight more of the benefits of getting married, having children, and it's not being done enough. I don't think we do enough to highlight the benefits for yourself and for your surroundings, your neighborhood, your society, the community, when you are married and you have children. And, like this LGBTQ lifestyle, I'm not somebody that thinks like nobody should be allowed to do it, or I don't care. I just don't think it should be shoved down our throats in nowhere near the capacity in which it is. I don't think we should be somewhere like Palestine where you should be beaten to death or thrown off a roof because you like the same sex. I don't agree with that. I just don't think it needs to be pushed and promoted in our society, and that's what it is. It's been promoted in our society. It's been they're grooming these kids to be like, hey, this is an option for you. You might want to try this, and it's just sickening what it's all become. And I just think on the flip side of that, it needs to be centered more on our families. And I think it's the most important thing. It's something I've been working on for years, highlighting the fact of the fatherless crisis. So many kids growing up without the father in the home. I interviewed over 750 people on my show, First Class Fatherhood, just to highlight the importance of fatherhood. We have all these people in our society that we know of we celebrate them for the things they do, whether they're an author or an actor or an NFL player or a UFC fighter or a business owner. We highlight them for that. And the truth is, when you talk to them, the most important thing in their life is their children, and as it should be. And we need to highlight that more because we've got a drastic problem with the breakup of our nuclear families in this country. So anyway, that's why I wanted to tie something in like that when I asked my question to Caroline Levitt. It seemed to work out good because Congresswoman Mary Miller had brought it up that morning. She put in articles there to proclaim June a family month. So I actually reached out to the Congresswoman to try to get her on the show here. wasn't able to make it happen for today. I will have Congressman Andy Biggs on the podcast today, so we're going to get into so much of the stuff that's going on. The top of the news, last night, Trump issued a travel ban. Trump met today with the chancellor of the Germany. That's what's going on right now at the White House there with Trump. But yesterday, it was 12 countries put on the ban list, and I'll put them up on a board here so you can see them. The 12 countries getting a full ban, no longer accepting people into the United States from Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Congo, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Equatorial Guinea. Or Equatorial Guyana. Now you have a partial restriction for these countries. Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Turkmenistan, Venezuela, Togo. And this coming right off of this terrorist attack that we had out in Boulder, Colorado, when you had an Egyptian, Middle Eastern, Islamic terrorist who threw Molotov cocktails at the Jewish Americans out there in what, liberal media doesn't know what was going on. They try to tell you it was a white guy and, just typical media lying for all this stuff. And now, President Trump putting a ban. And, not for nothing, I'm surprised that President Donald Trump didn't just put a complete stop on people coming to this country to immigrate, unless there's some kind of like, hey, we see with South Africa going on. You got people getting persecuted. I think all immigration, everything should stop. Put a travel ban on everybody coming into this country until we get everybody deported out of this country that doesn't belong here. Then we can open it back up. But I mean, it's these 12 countries, definitely, because we have so many people here from those countries. We don't even know where they are, who they are. And so it's a major, major issue. So I love the travel ban for President Donald Trump. I don't think it goes far enough, but I think it's, it's a start, and now the question is going to be, do you have a federal judge come swinging in to block the travel ban? We know when Trump did this in the first administration, a Muslim ban, he was racist. He was a Islamophobia, and they knocked it down. Now we have all these people in the country from the Muslim Brotherhood, from these terrorist organizations. We have no idea where they are, what they're planning, or what they're doing. So Trump puts the travel ban on that. But just as I say that, you had also yesterday, you had a federal judge that blocked the deportations of this maniac's family. So Trump deported quickly. The White House rounded up the wife and the 5 children of this guy, Mohammed Solomon, and was scheduling to deport them immediately. And now you have a federal judge, a Biden-appointed judge, who comes in, this guy, Judge Gordon P. Gallagher, district court judge, of course. He prevents the authorities from removing Salomon's wife, her name, Hayam El Gamal, and their 5 children from the country. In the statement, in the order, it says, defendants are temporarily restrained and enjoined from removing Hayam El Gamal and her 5 minor children from the state of Colorado or the United States. So you have another federal judge that comes in and stops President Donald Trump from doing his job and protecting the American people. We don't know what this guy just committed this act of terror. Now we have his family in the country. We don't know what they're capable of. They should be thrown out immediately. And anybody else, if this guy's got brothers or sisters or whoever's related to this guy, they got to throw them all out of the country, especially because they're here illegally. So it's just like, I'm frustrated by it. I can't imagine President Donald Trump's, and I've said this before, I can't imagine his frustration where you have American citizens getting burnt in a terrorist attack or being raped or murdered by people that aren't supposed to be in this country, and then he tries to remove them from the country, and the judges are blocking him from doing it. And I can't, and until Trump came into office here, nobody realized that these federal judges have this much power. They have that much power that they could dictate to the president what he could do. Some shithead judge here from Colorado, he could just prevent the president of the United States from deporting people related to a terrorist attacker, and he's got to agree with that. I mean, what is the point of having the president then? The federal judge, every single time he tried to, again, I was just at the press briefing Tuesday. Caroline Levitt, again, had the placards up there reading out these crimes against American citizens conducted by these illegal aliens, and nobody cares. The media doesn't care. It's just like, they're just like, yeah, whatever. Like, they're so desensitized to it. And I don't know what it's going to take for these federal judges to just get out of the way or stop. We'll talk to Congressman Andy Biggs about it when he's on here to see. I mean, I don't know. What do you do? How do you stop them? I know somebody suggested putting in something that says it has to be 3 judges that agree to the same thing. Then it could. But how does that matter? They got. As long as you have Obama appointed judges, Biden appointed judges, and even some that Trump appointed, that he was told to appoint, that he got bad information on, and he appointed them. They're out to get them too. So as we celebrate that Trump is in the White House and that things are in a better direction for the country, there's no question things are in a better direction. We still have the issue of the federal court judges that are blocking President Donald Trump. You have the Democrats that are doing everything they can to resist and stop President Donald Trump from implementing his agenda. And you also have the members of the Republican Party who are also doing everything possible to stop President Donald Trump from doing his job. And so it's never just like we have it, and we can go full court press and get the job done. It's always these little things that get in the way. And you also have, and here's another frustrating part, is Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary. Now, we know it was Jake Tapper first that comes out with them. Now, I've said it, go back to this show a year ago. I'm telling you, that when Joe Biden is out of office, you're going to have so many people from this administration come out writing books telling you how crazy it really was inside the White House. And that is exactly what is happening now. First, we had Jake Tapper, who came out with his book talking about how the Biden administration really fooled the media. Nobody had any idea that Biden lost his brain. He was, a mental midget. Nobody had any idea about any of that stuff. They thought Biden was sharp as a tack. The administration lied to them. So Jake Tapper and the people like that, they were fooled by it. And so he comes out with the book, and he did nothing but push the book on CNN 24 hours a day. Every appearance he made, he pushed the book. And he's saying that, Biden, they hid it from us. Yeah, Biden was a disaster. We all know that. Now, Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, who was representing Joe Biden there for 2 years, right? We had the redhead, Jen Psaki, and then we had Karine Jean-Pierre. So Karine Jean-Pierre now, she comes out with a book, Independent, it's called. And first of all, she announces she's leaving the Republican. She's leaving the Democrat Party. And she comes out with this book, Independent, A Look Inside a Broken White House, Outside the Party Lines. The book is coming out this fall. So she puts out a little teaser video for it, and it's basically saying, hey, I lied to you guys for 2 years. Now I'm going to make a book and make a lot of money on how I lied to you guys for 2 years. And she did nothing but lie from the podium. We all know. Would it be surprising if even she comes out and says, hey, I actually have a husband and a boyfriend. I'm not even gay, or I'm not even a lesbian or queer, whatever she identifies as. I know that was the main focal point when she got up there. Like for the first week, all you ever heard about was, did I tell you guys I'm the first black and lesbian press secretary ever? Did I tell you guys that yet? She made a point to tell you, did I let everybody know here that I'm a queer black press secretary? We heard that for the first month that she was in there. And it was nonstop celebration about it. So what were we celebrating? A woman who lied from the podium. That's what we're celebrating now. We can look back. Not only is it Biden was a disgrace, the administration was a disgrace, the press secretary also a disgrace. And now you're gonna go buy a book to read. It's almost like that girl Sherry Papini, right? The liar from this case. You know, she pretended she was abducted, lied, made up this whole story about a serial liar. That's what Karine Jean-Pierre is, a serial liar. She should have the foreword of the book written by that Sherry Papini girl. But she's nothing but a liar. And she could have came out and been, same thing with Jake Tapper. If Jake Tapper would have questioned this 2 years ago, we'd be looking at him in a totally different light now. We'd be looking at him as like a champion for truth, a champion for free speech, saying, you know what? I'm owned by CNN, and we have to use this, we have to toe the line here. But I don't think Biden looks like he's cognitively there. He could have done that, and it would have changed the way we look at him. Karine Jean-Pierre, at any point, under her own free will, could have said, you know what? What I'm doing is wrong here. I see behind the scenes. Joe Biden has no idea what year it is. He has no idea he's president. He doesn't know what's going on from day to day. She could have been a hero in that sense. She could have came out and told the American public, we have got a major problem here in the White House, and wrote her book then. And you know what? People would have supported her for it. She could have still said, hey, I align with this Democrat policy. I align with this. But what's happening right now is wrong. What's happening to the American people is wrong. They're being led by a man who should not be in there. She could have done that. It would have made history. Now she's coming out with the book, and now she's going to throw Biden under the bus. What does it mean now? You covered for the guy for 2 years, and everybody covered for the guy. Meanwhile, we had to watch our country get invaded by millions of people still here. So it's I don't know. All right, let's jump into this. I got Congressman Andy Biggs joining me on the podcast here. And as I said, we have a problem with Republicans who are in the way as well and who are there to undermine Trump. And there's several that I like, that I believe we can trust. And when it comes down to all this stuff, it's Trump that I trust. But with the Republicans, there's several ones that are in Congress or in the Senate that I trust. And one of them is Andy Biggs. Now, Andy Biggs is from Arizona. He's been a congressman there. He's now running for governor of Arizona. They just recently did a big rally with Charlie Kirk, very successful. Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA are dumping, I think, $500,000 into ads for Andy Biggs. They're campaigning hard for Andy Biggs in Arizona to be the next governor. I'm going to bring him on the podcast. Now, we're not going to get into his governor race because he's in D.C., so he's not allowed to really, and I think there's restrictions on what we can get into with that, so we're not going to focus on his run for governor. I will bring him on down the line in a separate interview to talk about that entire governor race that's going on. But right now I want to focus on, what's going on right now. So let's bring on Andy Biggs and see what we can get into.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm at the White House with my dad, and you're watching The Alec Lay Show.
You're listening to The Alec Lay Show. The future is family.
All right, let's do it. Congressman Andy Biggs, welcome back to The Alec Lay Show.
Thanks for having me, Alec. Good to be with you.
It's good to see you. A lot going on that I want to cover. Real quick, I seen your colleague there, James Comer, saying, they're going to be doing this investigation into the Biden cover-up. A lot of talk about, I was at the press briefing with Caroline Leavitt this week. A lot of questions about who authorized the use of the auto pen, who's using it. How much do we know right now?
Well, what we know and what we suspect just kind of gets cloudy. So we're going to bring in now Ron Klain, who was the chief of staff for a while there under President Biden. This is good to bring him in. We also know some other things like, at least on one of the pardons, there was a different signature than the auto pin signature. So you have a whole slew of these auto pin signings, but you don't have this on this one critical one. You have a different signature, and so we want to get to the bottom of all of that. And I talked to the chairman, Chairman Comer, today about it. I'm excited we're going to bring him in, and it has to happen, in my opinion, sooner rather than later.
And it seems like it seems like that it's not a matter of whether or not he used the auto pen. It's who authorized the use of it or who was using it itself. Right? But break down the difference between like, so if Biden said, "Oh, okay, I approve this," and used the auto pen, it's one thing. But if somebody else used it without his knowledge, that's where the issues come in. Correct?
Yeah, and so we know that there's a ton of stuff that Biden did that was signed by the auto pen. Some of that will have been authorized. The question is, as you say, because we found there are federal crimes that somebody could be charged with kind of manipulating that auto pin. And this really gets kind of cloudy because if Joe Biden did not have the mental acuity or the capacity to authorize the use of the auto pin, who did? Who was authorizing the auto pin? Because nobody else should be able to authorize it other than Joe Biden. And we have to get to the bottom of that because, and this gets to the whole thing about the 25th Amendment. Do we need to revisit the 25th Amendment when you get a president that is as mentally incompetent as Joe Biden appears to have been? And people like yourself, myself, we were observing that for a long time before this ever picked up traction. But in any event, you've got several layers that you're going to have to peel back to find out who did what, who had authority, who didn't have authority, and why were these things happening. And I expect everybody's going to be pointing this way.
And also, too, Congressman, like when you had her report came out and it was clear that they said, "Oh, Biden's not mentally fit to stand trial, answer questions." How could they contrast that with the fact that if that guy's not fit to answer questions, how could he be fit to run the country? And so, right there, you would imagine the 25th Amendment would have automatically kicked in. Once you have a guy saying, "Yeah, he can't do it," then they didn't want to release the transcripts, they didn't want to release the audio because it would have shown just how bad it really was, and everybody was involved in covering this up.
Yeah, it was a total cover up. And I want to point out something to you, Alec. If you're too young probably to remember this, but I was a young kid myself in the early 70s when you had the Watergate catastrophe, 72, 73, going forward, Richard Nixon ultimately resigning. And what happened was Richard Nixon covered it up. And that's what everybody was mad at. And so they basically said he's got to go because of the cover up, not because of the Watergate breaking, because that was a silly thing that happened. That was a political campaign type of thing, which shouldn't have happened, but it did. So they were all mad at Nixon for the cover up. Well, this cover up that we have here is the biggest scandal, perhaps, in the United States history. You have a guy who's mentally incompetent, who's in the Oval Office. You've got his vice president, who is also, who knows what she's capable of doing and not doing, but she's there. Then you have this cadre of staffers. You've got cabinet officials that are they're not even interacting because he went, 2 years plus without a cabinet meeting at all. These types of things, when people like you and I were saying, who's running this country? Because people were asking me, I said, I don't know who's running the country. Is it Alejandro Mayorkas running the border? And you got, the Secretary of State dealing with making his own deals, and you got the Secretary of Defense basically going AWOL. And in retrospect, he probably didn't even know who he should report to, right? I mean, so this is a massive scandal, massive cover-up, complicit media. All these people should be held accountable.
Yeah, there should be, definitely criminal charges here of some kind. But I don't even, it's one of those things too. Now the damage is done. Like this stuff should have been happening, in real time. I mean, and I remember because, like you said, we all saw it. I remember I was on with Larry Kudlow there on Fox News, 6 months before Joe Biden dropped out of the race, saying there's no way they're going to run this guy. I mean, we were debating about it. I said, there's no way they could run him. He doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. And so now we find out now, now you have Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, coming out with a book. It's saying that she's leaving the Democrat Party, and she's saying the title of the book is Independent. I think it's called like Inside a Broken White House. It's like, well, what good is this doing everybody now? You could have been a real, true American hero by standing up and telling the truth a year or two ago.
Exactly right. She is part of the cover-up.
Right.
And now she's going to make all this money selling her book. And the thing of it is, she could have been a stand-up person at the time 2 years ago and said, this is what's going on. Joe Biden doesn't know, he wanders around. I mean, this is, we heard all this stuff, And so the question is, not the question, but the reality is, if she would have stood up 2 years ago and said, hey, this is what's going on, she still could have written her book. She still could have made a bunch of money off that, but she would have been a hero rather than a goat, because the reality, not like Tom Brady's a goat. I'm talking about, an actual billy goat, nanny goat, whatever you want to call him. But here's the deal. She chose to participate in that cover-up. And now she's choosing to cash in on her outrage over the cover-up she caused. Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah, and the media is complicit too, despite the fact Jake Tapper comes out with his book now saying, oh, he was duped. I was duped by the Biden administration. No one's buying any of the lies. The media carried this guy along for 4 years, telling you not to believe your own eyes, not to believe what you're hearing. And they're all complicit in it.
Yeah, and Alec, here's the beautiful part of the Jake Tapper thing. He's saying, I was duped. Well, Jake, I got a bulletin for you. If you were duped by Joe Biden and the Biden administration, you're the biggest dope in the world. I mean, because people looking at it from the outside were like, hey, there's major problems. There's a reason why members of Congress were not going over to the White House to see the president on a regular basis to talk about issues. It's because the president was incapable of doing it. There's another reason they didn't go see the vice president. Actually, it's the same reason, but for a different purpose. She just wasn't capable of being the vice president.
Yeah, she was the worst candidate we may have had in presidential history there. But also, too, not only did they cover it up, they shot you down like, oh, those are cheap, fake videos.
Exactly.
They tried to tell you were insane. It almost reminded me of during COVID. They tried to make it out like you were the one that was nuts, not them. And we all knew it. So,
Alec, on that point, there is another country. There's two countries that are doing this right now, North Korea and China. But there was another country that did that for years, decades. It was the Soviet Union. They would tell everybody else they were crazy. They would arrest you, and you were living in the Soviet Union. When you read the accounts of what was happening there, they would tell you exactly the opposite of what the truth is, and it would blow your mind. So you would engage in this kind of cognitive dissonance, this inability to see what was real. That's what the Democrats did.
Yeah, and it's us that had to suffer. Let me switch gears here too. First, let me touch on this attack that we had in Boulder, Colorado, because I know it's another one of these things too, where you have federal judges in this country, Congressman, who are stopping President Donald Trump from deporting illegal aliens. You have Democrats that are actually flying down to El Salvador. They're blocking ICE facilities in Newark, New Jersey. So you have the media shaming Donald Trump for trying to deport illegal, and now you have an illegal immigrant or illegal alien that's here causing this terror attack, which they didn't want to call a terror attack. And it's like, would you consider to say that the Democrats, the federal judges, the media are all complicit in this thing?
Absolutely. I mean, here's the deal. This guy, he's an Egyptian national illegally in the country, right? And there's some question. Maybe he had a visa to get in here. Okay. But guess what? As soon as you overstay the visa, you are illegally in the country. You are an illegal alien. And he carried this thing out, said he would, because Free Palestine movement, all this stuff. And what's the first reaction of the left, Democrats in Congress? And all, hey, this is not a terrorist attack. Well, what is it? What is it? He's going over there, and it's kind of the classical definition of terror. He's engaging in violence to threaten and intimidate somebody against doing what their conscience would otherwise allow under our civil rights and our natural rights. That's what this guy did and said, yeah, free Palestine, I do it again. Well, what is that? That's a terrorist attack, man. And who let him in? Joe Biden let him in. And Joe Biden was trying to give him a parole. You know who facilitated that? If it wasn't Joe Biden, it was Alejandro Mayorkas. And and nobody wants to hold Mayorkas accountable. Nobody wants to hold, lunchbox Joe or whatever he is, paper sack Joe or whatever he's taking his lunch in.
Yeah, Lunchbox Joe or whatever they try to call him. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Congressman, too. We don't know how many more of these radical, like Islamic guys are here. We don't know how many. So you have the radical Islamic terrorists that are in our country that came through Joe Biden's open border. You have these gangbangers, the MS-13 guys that are here. And you also have these Chinese nationals that are in the country that snuck in under Biden. So there's millions of these people that came into the country. And every time President Trump is trying to deport just a small fraction of it, he faces injunction. He's persecuted in the media. The Democrats are trying to block it. And it's like, there's so much damage that's been done. He's just trying to undo a small piece of it. And it almost seems like we're doomed here if we don't get these people out of the country.
No, that's right. That's why we need to. I have a bill sitting there that needs to be moved on that would allow us to remove these judges. We need to remove these judges that are doing this terrible stuff. But I mean, think of it this way too. You have these 3 Georgian guys who come in and they go kill the two. They sneak across southern Arizona border. They get in. They go kill these 2 Israeli guys in New Jersey. You don't know how many times more that's going to happen because the sheer volume of people that Joe Biden let in that are all over the country, totally unvetted, we're not following them, we're checking on them. This is what Tom Homan's experiencing. It's tough to find and track down all these people. Guess what? There's a whole myriad of those people that have bad intentions. And this is this goes to Lunchbox Joe, Lunch Pail Joe, whatever he is, he holds the blame. The blood's on his hands and blood's on Mayorkas's hands.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And the issue too, it's just not only do we not know how many of them are here, we don't know, we don't even know who's here in our own country that's helping these people out, who's harboring these people. So there, and also too, this Egyptian guy was saying that this was planned for a year. Like he was planning out, where was our intelligence? How did we not find out that this is a guy that's here planning a terror attack for over a year and we don't find out about it?
Yeah, I mean, he's looking on Molotov cocktails on Google.
Tried to buy a gun and couldn't do it because he wasn't a citizen. Then that set off a red flag. Hey, why is this guy trying to buy a gun? Nothing.
Yeah, it's baffling to me. And I would suggest that, frankly, when you have 10 to 15 million illegal aliens come in a 4-year period, and by the way, the previous administration lost over 400,000 of children. And we could debate on how many of those were real children, how many weren't. But the point is, there was no vetting going on. And this administration, they wouldn't let you take any DNA samples. And the left doesn't want you to do any DNA samples on these people at all, but certainly not under the age of 14. We're talking, these are the policies of self-immolation. That's really what it is.
It is, and it's so enormous. The scale is so huge for them to try to figure this out. You said millions and millions of these people. Where do you even begin? The job, the task is enormous. And then let me switch gears here on Doge, because these Doge cuts that we have, we need to see them be permanent. Yes, I know I think they're putting in a thing to make Doge permanent now, part of the government now as well. But the Doge cuts themselves. The rescission bill, I know, is something that's coming in, but the Doge is uncovering all this waste, fraud, and abuse. We need to make that permanent, yes, but also doesn't there need to be some kind of accountability? Like, who was responsible for signing off on all this waste, fraud, and abuse? Like, don't you think that's like a part of this too? Yes, let's codify it or whatever we got to do to make it permanent, but also who was responsible for it?
No, you're 100% right. So I'm just going to give you 3 quick points on this. Number one, you got to hold somebody accountable. These are checks going out there. So the bill that we're going to do, which they tell me, I thought it was going to come this week. Maybe it's coming next week at the latest. But that's the Doge cuts. That's the rescission package. That's the first rescission package. You can do more rescission packages. So that's USAID and that type of stuff. So that's about a $9.6 billion one. So that's good. Chip Roy's got a bill I'm signed on to, and it is to make permanent the Doge process, to allow Congress to see anytime the Treasury is writing these big checks, we need to know We need to know that because that's where all this fraud is. And the third thing I'm going to tell you is I just came from a hearing earlier today, Pete Sessions in the oversight subcommittee on government ops, where we're doing the Pentagon. And I'm just telling you, Alec, the Pentagon is blowing and losing billions and billions of dollars every year in fraud, waste. I mean, one of the examples that we had to ground 47 of our planes because a small you had a foreign company that is not legal to actually bid through a U.S. cutout, some make-believe company here, and they were just doing it was a $180,000 contract, but they gave substandard, non-conforming parts, so they couldn't work on the planes. So they had to ground those 47 planes. What? Who's watching over that? Yeah, we found out about it, but why didn't we find out about it beforehand? Why didn't we find out that this is a foreign company that doesn't have any authority to bid? You have all of this stuff going on there, and that's what I'm saying is we find out this stuff. Why aren't they prosecuted? Prosecuting some of these people actually will snuff out some of this fraud, waste, and abuse.
It almost goes back to what we were saying about Biden. It's like, yeah, we're finding out now about all this stuff, but in real time, stopping it would have been the key. Somebody standing up and whistleblowing and say, hey, what's going on here is wrong. Same thing with what we're finding with Doge. You're saying with the Pentagon. Yeah, we'll find it down the line. Oh, this is what was going on. Like in real time, can't we have somebody say, hey, look, we're pissing this money away here, and like nothing's being done about it. So, and it's just frustrating as the taxpayer to see the money getting blown and nobody being held accountable for it. And it's just like, now you just keep paying. And that leads us here to the last point is this, the big, beautiful bill. And there's like now Elon Musk is all out, full out against this thing. He posted on Twitter a kill bill. So he's totally against it. Although from my understanding that the bill reduces the deficit $1.2 trillion over 10 years, ending all Biden regulations. There's a lot of good about this, but the argument on the other side is that it's going to increase the deficit. So what is your understanding of it? Where you stand on it?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I appreciate Elon Musk's opinion, and it would have been interesting while some of us were trying to get more cuts if he would have made that statement before the bill got voted on. I mean, to wait till afterwards I wish he hadn't done that. But here's the deal. We actually moved it up so you have roughly $1.5 trillion in reductions. And there's a lot of those are going to be in the first 5 years, which is really the most important part. And then there's another contextual thing that people forget. So CBO, the same CBO that people are relying on saying there's going to be a deficit growth, they've now come out and said, yeah, but there's actually going to be a reduction in the deficit because of the tariff program that Trump has in place. And what the current growth and the projection of the growth, the Atlanta Federal Reserve of Atlanta recently said that they're projecting the second quarter to have growth of 3.8% growth. Well, that would be a remarkable growth. And if you can replicate that for a number of quarters, that also will reduce the deficit. So you got a mixed bag here, and that's what happens when you have a complicated bill, complicated economy. Look, there's stuff in this bill I didn't like. I felt we didn't go near far enough. But I also said, well, if you kill the bill, guess what happens? Every American's going to get about a $1,500 a year tax increase, and that's no good either. So there was a lot to this bill. In the end, I felt like we had made it better, and I could vote for it. But now the Senate's trying to get rid of some of these Green New Deal subsidy things that are there, cuts that we had in there. They want to bring back some of those Green New Deal subsidies. How do you do that? I mean, how do you do that? That's like what else we're doing. We're increasing the funding for the Pentagon when they've never passed an audit, and we just had a hearing today about massive amounts, billions and billions of dollars of fraud. So this place sometimes can be the most broken place on the planet.
Yeah, because if you borrowed $10,000 from the bank and never paid it back, and then went for another 10,000, they wouldn't even allow you in the door. Yet we just keep doing the same thing, and it makes no sense. And here's the thing: is like, so the big beautiful bill. It's like I've never read the bill. I don't know really what's in the bill, so I can only go based on what other people are saying about the bill. And when it comes down to making a final decision for me, I trust President Donald Trump. That's what the people voted for. If President Donald Trump is saying this is going to be good for the American people, I believe him. And that's really what it comes down to. Like I said, I don't know who reads the bills. I don't know what, I know they said there's some AI aspect in the bill that people don't like. I don't know because I've never seen it. I'll probably never read it because I don't know where to, that's, I'm going based on what everybody's saying about it. And at the end of the day, I trust President Donald Trump over all the rest.
Yeah, and that's a fair statement. I trust President Trump, and he wants to do what's right. He wants to ultimately balance the budget. He wants to get this stuff done, but he also has a series of promises he made to the American people. And the bill, by the time we finished it here, I felt it was the closest and the best we could do to keep the promises he had made. And now I just don't want the Senate to water it down. It struggles enough that the bill is trying to stay afloat as it is. They don't need to poke a hole in the bottom of it. So,
well, I appreciate it. Give me the last thing. Give me the timeline you think on what's going to happen. When do we expect a vote in the Senate, and when does it get back to you guys in the House? What give me, and when does it maybe possibly best case scenario get to Trump's desk? Give me a little bit of a timeline in your opinion.
I would say I know that the Speaker's talking about having it done by July 4th. I think you'll be lucky to get it out of the Senate by July 4th, and then by the time you get it resolved. But I would say sometime before July 31st, before the August recess, I would imagine that we're going to be voting on a bill that has been reconciled both houses.
All right, fair enough. Congressman Andy Biggs, keep doing what you're doing. There's a few people in Congress even that I trust anymore. You're one of them for sure. That's the other part of this problem. We got the Democrats working against us, but some in our own House that are working against us too. Amen. I know that's not you. That's why I appreciate your time, and I'd love to have you back on down the line. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time today on the Alec Show.
Beautiful, Alec. Thanks.
All right, honored to have Congressman Andy Biggs on the podcast. What you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. I did want to update this here, too, because Joe Biden made a statement about the auto pen accusations here. So I want to put this in there. Let me be clear-minded. I made the decisions during my presidency. I made the decisions about the pardons, executive orders, legislation, and proclamation. Any suggestion that I didn't is ridiculous and false. This is nothing more than a distraction by Donald Trump and the congressional Republicans who are working to push disastrous legislation that would cut essential programs like Medicaid and raise costs on American families, all to pay for tax breaks for the ultra wealthy and big corporations. There goes that play like, oh, they're just for the wealthy. The wealthy are going to get wealthier. The wealthier got wealthier under Joe Biden's presidency. And they always make it seem as if like they're for the middle class and for the people. The wealthy in this country got far wealthier during President Biden's administration. And more billionaires donated to the Democrat Party than to the Republican Party in this last election. But they always frame it that way to make you believe it's true. Oh, Trump's just trying to help the rich. Biden literally helped the rich in his 4 years of presidency. Same thing, like you have these frauds like Bernie Sanders that are like, we're the oligarchy. We're going to take down the oligarchy. Guy's got 3 homes, flies in private jets all over the place telling you to take the bus. I can't believe it. Like, people don't see through this nonsense. But so he says he made the decisions during his presidency. So why not, if you're going to pardon your family, if you're going to pardon Dr. Fauci, if you're going to pardon the J6 committee, why not sign the documents for those? The only one that he signed was for Hunter Biden. That's not throwing up red flags. So he responded to this. I think there's a lot more covering up, and there's going to be a cover-up of the cover-up that's going to go on, and we're going to see just how far down the rabbit hole it goes. But we already know now that, Biden was, totally out of his mind and was not in control of his decisions. So who was in control of those decisions? Who was making the decision to pardon who Joe Biden pardoned? Now, there's over 8,000 of these pardons that went down. So even if you look at the list of top pardons by U.S. president, all top 5 are Democrats, right? Number 1, Joe Biden, 8,000 plus. Now, there's a lot of clemencies involved in there, and there's some other stuff, but 8,000 plus total. Number 2, Franklin Roosevelt, 2,800. He's second place, 2,800. Joe Biden, over 8,000. Franklin, 2,800. Then Woodrow Wilson, Harry Truman, and Barack Obama. So all top 5 Democrats. I think they said if it's Andrew Jackson did something for like the Civil War Confederate soldiers, something like 200,000 or something like that. But that's like I don't know if that was like a blanket. That's not, seems to be included in the list. Anyway, Joe Biden pardons all these people. And so you got to wonder who was making the decision. That's what we're talking about there with Congressman Andy Biggs. Always an honor when I get a chance to speak to the congressmen, the ones that I trust. I mean, I believe Congressman Andy Biggs is somebody that's, if he wasn't in politics, you would think he's a MAGA influencer. The way that he tweets and the way that he reacts to this stuff, I think he's in there. He's one of the good ones that we have. Based on his record, based on what based on his career, I would say he's one of the ones we have that are the good ones. And I pray that he does become the next governor of Arizona. I'm going to have him back on the podcast at some point here again to talk about that race, no doubt. And as I said to the congressman, it's in Trump I trust. And that's the truth. Now, everyone's coming out with these different things about the big, beautiful bill. People are hating it. People are liking it. Everyone's got like a different take on what it is. And Charlie Kirk put up on X yesterday, he put up, let me find this here, he put up 50 good major things from the Trump big, beautiful bill. I'm not going to read all 50. I'll rattle off a few of them here, right? No tax on tips. Makes Trump's tax cuts permanent. Child tax credit raises to $2,500. Overtime pay, tax-free. No tax on overtime. $1.6 trillion in spending cuts. Deporting 1 million illegal immigrants per year. Builds the wall, finishes the wall. 10,000 new ICE agents. Eliminates Medicaid for illegal aliens. Let me get a few other ones here. Green New Deal defunded. Tariffs on China. Repeals DEI mandates. Military pay raise. Let's see, we got a couple of the other ones here. Mandates for voter ID for federal elections. Crackdown on big pharma middlemen. Bans drag shows for kids at federally funded venues. I mean, we have to put that in a bill. We can't. That can't just be something that happens. Fires the climate cult from federal boards. Another thing, it was a waste of money. Just like talking to Congressman Biggs about. Let me see a couple more of these here. Tax breaks for adoption and large families. Restores cash bail in federal jurisdictions. No more revolving door criminals. I mean, these are things we need a bill for. But this is the thing. I have no idea what is really in the bill here. I haven't read it. I don't intend on reading it. So I have to base, what's going to happen here based on what people say about the bill, good and bad. Elon Musk, I don't know why. And just like Congressman Biggs said there, why did Elon Musk not come out like this while it was in the House, before it went to the Senate? Where was his talk there? Why did he not come in and offer some other solution? And that's usually the thing. People knock people for trying something and then don't offer a solution in return. Why not get involved in this at the entry level? Why wait till it now goes to the Senate and now you start knocking the bill? So the bill, you heard from the congressman, he thinks maybe by July 31st. This is the major thing that Trump is hanging his hat on, the big, beautiful bill. So we're going to see. But, Elon Musk puts up the tweet yesterday, the kill bill from the movie. He comes out hard. Call your senators, call your congressmen, tell them to kill the bill. So he is diehard and dead set against it. And again, I put my faith in Trump. It's Trump who I elected. It's Trump who I have the faith in. It's Trump who I believe. When it comes down to Trump and Elon, I'm on Trump's team every time. I'm not team Elon here. I'm team Trump. And that's it. In for a dime, in for a dollar. I'm all the way invested in this. And I do believe that Trump, usually, even up front when you're not sure what the hell is going on, down the line you look back and say, wow, Trump was right about that. Trump was right about this. And it's happened time and time again. And at this point, we owe it to him. And what is the other option here? It doesn't go through, and then what? Taxes go up on everybody. Now, Trump also trying to stop this, which seems almost inevitable now that World War III is going to break out. I mean, it seems almost inevitable. Trump trying to do everything he can to, finally put the brakes on it. But you have these war hawks that just really want to see it happen. Trump had a call with Vladimir Putin yesterday, saying he had an hour and 15-minute call. One of the things he says in here, Putin did say very strongly that we have to respond to the recent attack on the airfields. This is when Ukraine bombed all those planes over in Russia. They also hit that bridge or whatever, a tunnel. We also discussed Iran, okay, and the fact that time is running out on Iran's decision pertaining to nuclear weapons, which must be made quickly. So Putin, he says, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Putin seems to agree with that. No, you take everything Putin says with a grain of salt. But it almost seems like, and now what do we have? You have these other guys like Lindsey Graham over in Ukraine. You got Pompeo over there in Ukraine. These are two guys that are completely against the United States. I mean, Pompeo had a lot of people fooled. Some people knew right from the jump with Pompeo. He was the former director of the CIA. And Lindsey Graham is just nobody can figure out why President Donald Trump continues to support and endorse Lindsey Graham. Guy's a total, complete and utter failure. And a war hawk, no doubt. But it seems like we are escalating towards a war with Iran. And it seems like the Russia-Ukraine is really, being that whole entire thing is ready to just explode. And it's going to get worse and escalate more. If Trump wasn't in there right now, they probably would be friggin' lobbing nukes already, Russia. But we're going to see what happens with that. But the whole Iran thing, I know Tucker Carlson just put up a post yesterday about Mark Levin talking about Iran. They're going to get these nuclear weapons. And it's like, now the read on this is that Iran is so far away from getting a nuclear weapon. It's almost like we were fooled into the weapons of mass destruction. Oh, Iraq, weapons of mass destruction. There was none, but they got us all into war. And the concerning part about this is that now, in a positive way, our recruiting numbers are up. The Army already met their numbers, their quota for this year, right? 4 months earlier than expected. The military recruitment is up everywhere. And so now you have more people joining the military. And now we're getting marched right into war here. And we don't want to see it. That's why I think that Trump is the president of peace. He wants to be known for that. He is the peacemaker. He spoke a lot about how no new wars broke out under his 4 years in his first term. So he doesn't want to ruin that legacy. I think war is something that Trump will avoid at all costs. But it seems like there's too many people and too much money at stake for people to agree with him. And I don't think you'll see Zelensky do anything to de-escalate the war. You won't see Putin try to de-escalate. So it seems like it's inevitable what's about to happen over there. And you just hope that, the dying doesn't have to be as drastic as it seems like it's going to be. Same thing that's going on with the Israel-Hamas, Israel-Palestine, same thing. So frustrating to watch all of it. And again, got these federal judges that are stopping Trump from doing anything. It's like Trump could probably stop the war, and then a federal judge would come in and be like, no, Trump can't stop that war. No, keep the war going. We'll keep the war going. Trump's not allowed to do it. So that's what it seems like. All right. Grateful to Andy Biggs for joining me on the podcast. I'm working on a couple of guests for next week. I don't know if I'll be back down at the White House next week. I know I have, got my son's graduation. I got 8th grade graduation, and I got a high school graduation coming up here with our kids. So busy time here for me in the household, personal life, and between going to work, doing the White House, the podcast, the whole bit. I'm trying to jam in as much as I can and give my 100% effort into all things that I do here. And I do appreciate your support. It really means a lot to me. Going to keep it nice and short here for you guys today. Make sure you bring it back next week. I'll be back on Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Rumble. Make sure you follow the podcast, share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors. Don't forget to check out the Trump is Trending. I put that out almost every day when I can. Top 5 reasons why Trump is trending each and every day. If you'd like, check it out. I'm getting a lot of good feedback on it. So check that out as well. I got the link in the description down below. All right. God bless you guys. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the summer here. God bless you parents and you listeners out there. God bless our police, first responders, our military, our veterans. God bless America. And I'll catch you guys next week, Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, back on Rumble. Have a good weekend.
You're listening to the Alec Lace Show, the future